My family didn't invite me to my cousin's gender reveal, but they used my card for the party. $3,400 gone. When I confronted my mom, she said, "You never liked kids anyway. What's the big deal?" 2 hours later, my aunt posted, "Couldn't have done it without our favorite helper." I replied, "Helper's gone home." Then I froze the account, filed a fraud report, and waited. I found out about the party on Facebook. The first thing I noticed was the neon sign. "It's a boy," glowing above a table stacked with pastel-colored cupcakes. My cousin and his wife were front and center, grinning like they just won the lottery. My mom was in the background, clapping. My aunt, cousins, second cousins, even a few in-laws I barely remembered, they were all there. Except me. At first, I thought maybe I'd missed something. I checked my texts. Nothing. Emails, nothing. I even searched the words, "gender reveal," in my inbox just in case. Still nothing. I stared at the photo for a while, then opened another post from my aunt. She tagged half the family and written, "So much love went into this day. Thank you to everyone who helped make it possible." I called my mom. She answered like she was waiting for it. When I asked why I wasn't invited, she didn't hesitate. "You never liked kids," she said. "So what's the big deal?" Then she asked if I'd seen the little blue baby shoes they put on top of the cake. I didn't answer. I hung up. Later that night, I logged into my credit card account to make a routine payment, and there it was, $3,400 worth of charges I didn't recognize. One from a banquet hall, another from a catering company, and a third from a company called Neon Lux. I clicked on it. The note read, "Custom sign, it's a boy." That was the moment everything clicked. Years ago, I'd added my mom as an authorized user on my card. Emergency use only. She rarely touched it, a couple groceries here, gas fill up there. But now I was staring at thousands of dollars she'd spent behind my back for a party I wasn't even invited to. 2 hours later, my aunt texted me a photo of a giant balloon arch and said, "We couldn't have done it without our favorite helper." That was it. That was the line. I replied, "The helper went home." Then I blocked her. I called my bank and reported the charges as unauthorized. They asked me if I knew who had used the card. I said yes. They told me they'd begin an investigation. The card would be frozen, and the vendors would likely be notified. I said, "Perfect," and hung up. 2 days later, the fallout began. The catering company called my mom. The payment had been declined. Then the venue, then the balloon decorator. That night, she texted me asking if my card was acting weird. I didn't respond. The next morning, she left a voicemail saying she was confused and embarrassed. I still didn't answer. Then my cousin texted me, "This is getting out of hand. It wasn't personal. You've said before you don't like family events like that." I screenshotted the charges, then the Facebook post with the neon sign, and sent them back to back. "Still think I don't care?" No reply. What they didn't know was that I'd already started unraveling everything I'd quietly done for them. I'd been the invisible fixer in the family for years, paying for car insurance under my name so it would be cheaper, covering random bills here and there, letting my cousin use my Disney Plus account for his kids. I ended it all. This wasn't some petty tantrum. I wasn't trying to make a point. I was done helping people who thought I was just a wallet with legs. They thought I'd cool off in a few days, that I'd feel guilty. They didn't realize this wasn't a phase. This was the new normal, and it was just beginning. A week after the fraud report, I got an email from the bank. They'd finished the investigation. All $3,400 was being refunded to my account. The card had been permanently shut down, and a new one was already in the mail. Clean slate. But it didn't feel like a win yet. It felt like I was standing on the edge of a rope bridge I'd been holding together for years. And now I'd finally stepped off and let it fall behind me. They had no idea what was coming next. That was the part that made me smile. I didn't say a word to anyone in the family. I didn't send a dramatic message, no warnings, no ultimatums. I just started pulling my support away, one thread at a time. First up, the car insurance. I'd added my cousin to my policy 3 years ago because he couldn't get approved on his own without paying double. Said he just needed it for a few months. He never left. I logged into my account, took him off, and let the system auto-update his policy. 2 days later, he texted me and 2 other cousins in a group chat. "Anyone else's insurance spike out of nowhere?" I didn't respond. Next, the family phone plan. My mom had jumped onto mine when her old provider raised her bill. She said she'd pay me back monthly. That stopped around month 3. I cut her line. No warning, just gone. She called me from my aunt's number later that day, left a voicemail that said she thought it was a glitch and to call her back when I could. I deleted it without listening to the rest. I checked the Disney Plus, Netflix, and Spotify family accounts that night. I changed every password. They all got booted out. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of password reset requests and missed calls. I ignored them. That same afternoon, my aunt posted a very vague status on Facebook. Something about how quickly generosity turns into punishment. And some people just can't handle being left out. Comments from family members poured in. Some agreed, some asked what happened. I didn't comment, but I screenshotted it. They still didn't understand. They thought this was about the party, that I was sulking over not being included. They thought if they let enough time pass, I'd get over it. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was done. A few days later, I got a long, performative email from my mom. Subject line: "Let's talk." She wrote that she didn't realize the party was that expensive, that she'd only meant to use my card for a few details, that she thought I wouldn't mind. She wrapped it up with a half-hearted apology and a suggestion that we move forward as a family. I responded with a copy of the credit card statement, line by line, and a one-sentence reply. "You stole from me." She didn't respond, but I knew the silence wasn't peace. It was panic. Then the rest started crawling out of the woodwork. My aunt texted me a fake cheerful, "Just checking in" message. My uncle, who's barely spoken to me since my dad's funeral, left a voicemail saying we all make mistakes and I needed to let go of the grudge. My cousin, the same one who was completely fine leaving me out of the party, sent me a half-baked apology that ended with, "Hope this doesn't change anything between us." And then the cherry on top, my cousin's wife messaged me. She wanted to know if I'd be willing to chip in for the newborn's first photo shoot. Said I'd always been so generous with family, and they'd love to have me be part of that special gift. I didn't reply. I blocked her. I called the storage unit where my aunt kept her clutter under my account because she couldn't put it in her name yet. I shut it down. I canceled the recurring PayPal donation my mom had linked to my account for her church fund. I stopped auto-paying my uncle's internet bill, a favor I took over during the pandemic that never ended. One by one, I erased the invisible web I built beneath them. No yelling, no drama, just silence. And every piece I took away forced them to see what they'd always expected from me and now weren't getting. The crazy part is, I still hadn't said a word publicly. No Facebook posts, no family messages, nothing. I let them stew. Let them wonder. Let them talk about it among themselves, because I knew what was coming next. They were going to try to fix it in the only way they knew how, by pretending it never happened. And I was going to let them, just long enough to pull off the last piece of my plan. It started with a wedding, not mine, obviously. My cousin's best friend was getting married in the fall, and the family had offered to help with planning. My aunt bragged for weeks about how she was handling the venue. My mom was sorting out the florals, and my cousin's wife had a connection for the cake and DJ. I didn't care until I got an email. It was from a local event rental company I'd used for work a few times. They were confirming my involvement in a family-sponsored wedding event. My name was listed as the financial coordinator. My family had used my old work contact to try and run the wedding order through me, assuming I'd just cover it like I always had. I called the company, told them there had been a mistake, and had my name scrubbed from everything. Then I asked them to forward me the inquiry. Sure enough, it came from my cousin's wife's email with a note saying, "Mark will handle billing like last time." That's when I knew they hadn't learned anything. They still thought I'd fold. That I'd come around eventually. That I'd get bored of the silence and crawl back into the background, fixing everything again. So I called a lawyer. Nothing fancy, just someone I knew from college who specialized in small claims and family disputes. I gave him the story, the unauthorized charges, the assumption that I'd pay, the message logs, everything. He asked if I wanted to pursue a civil case. I said, "No, not yet. What I wanted was control." A few days later, my lawyer sent certified letters to 3 people, my mom, my cousin, and my aunt. Each letter spelled out exactly what had been spent on my card. Each one had a formal demand for reimbursement under threat of small claims court. Each one listed evidence, transaction dates, screenshots, text messages. They panicked. My mom called me crying, left 3 voicemails in a row. My cousin emailed me a PDF of a fake payment agreement that looked like it had been written in a rush. My aunt called my sister and said I was tearing the family apart. I said nothing. A week later, $3,400 landed in my account from a Zelle transfer with no message attached, just the number. I screenshotted it, saved it in a folder called Closure, then blocked the numbers for good. But I wasn't finished. The last piece came quietly. I mailed them each a letter. Nothing dramatic, no speech, just a list of every financial favor I'd done over the last 5 years. Every phone bill, car insurance add-on, emergency payment, streaming account, utility login, gas card, and food delivery I'd covered. No threats, no demands. Just a postscript at the bottom. You're going to have to figure things out without me now. And I meant it. I'm not angry anymore. Just clean, lighter than I've felt in years. They've started telling people I'm going through a phase, that I got too into therapy, or that I'm just bitter. I let them say what they want. I let them wonder, because the truth is, I didn't need revenge that screamed. I just needed distance that stuck. And this time, it's permanent. 6 months. That's how long it's been since the gender reveal party I wasn't invited to, since they used my card, my name, and my silence like they always had. And it's been 6 months of the quietest, most satisfying chapter of my life. I haven't spoken to any of them directly. Not my mom, not my aunt, not my cousin. But they still talk about me. That's the part that makes me laugh. Even now, with all the bridges burned and the dust settled, they still find ways to pull my name into conversations I'm not in. A friend from high school sent me a screenshot a few weeks ago. My aunt had posted on Facebook asking for recommendations for affordable photographers who understand the importance of family. The comments were mostly pity and emojis. One of them said, "Hope Mark's doing okay." My aunt replied, "He's just going through something." I'm going through peace. My cousin's wife posted about how her baby shower was more intimate than planned. I found out later they tried to book the same venue as the gender reveal but were blacklisted because of the unpaid balance debacle. They'd scraped together something small at a community center instead. No balloon arch, no LED signs, just folding chairs and cupcakes from the grocery store. My mom still tries to reach out, but not to me. She uses my sister now. Passive little messages. "Tell Mark I hope he's well. Let him know I think of him." My sister doesn't pass them on anymore. She used to, at first, but even she got tired of the way they kept pretending none of this was their fault. The thing about walking away is that people don't believe you'll really do it, especially when you're the one who always fixes things. I was the invisible glue in the background, paying for the car insurance, quietly covering bills, pretending not to notice when someone forgot to pay me back. I let them think I'd always be there. That was my mistake. But the moment I cut them off, the moment I stopped explaining myself, they didn't know what to do with the silence. Because it wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was just final. I got a new phone number, new email, changed my bank, restructured my accounts, scrubbed every last trace of them out of my life. I even swapped out the locks on my apartment, not because I thought anyone would come by, but because it felt symbolic. A clean reset. My space, my rules, my life. I started doing things for me. Small things at first. Cooking at home, going for long walks, saying no to anything that didn't feel right. I got a gym membership and actually used it. I learned how to sleep again, like really sleep, not just collapse at the end of the day with my mind racing through unpaid favors and family guilt. I built new habits, new routines, found people who checked in on me without needing something. I stopped apologizing for protecting my peace. I stopped explaining myself to people who never cared enough to ask the right questions. My sister asked me recently if I'd ever go back, if I'd ever sit down with them and talk it out. I told her the truth. If they wanted to apologize, truly apologize, not to manipulate, not to guilt, but to own what they did, I'd listen. But I wasn't waiting for it. I wasn't holding space anymore for people who never earned it. And even if the apology came, it wouldn't mean we go back to how it was. That version of me is gone. This isn't punishment. It's freedom. They thought I was cutting them off to hurt them. What they don't realize is I'm just finally choosing me. And once you learn to do that, it's impossible to go back. They still think I'm going through a phase. That I'll come around eventually. That I'll miss the birthdays, the group texts, the fake laughs at family dinners. What they don't understand is I don't miss any of it. I don't miss the wait. I don't miss the guilt. I don't miss being the unpaid fixer of everyone's mess. And that's the part they'll never say out loud, not that I overreacted, but that without me, they're starting to feel the cracks. And I'm not coming back to patch them up. It was a Tuesday when the message came. Not a text, not a call, a card actually mailed to my new address. I hadn't given it out to anyone in the family, which meant someone got it from my sister or maybe from an old bill I forgot to update. Plain envelope, no return address. Inside was a cheap Hallmark card with a teddy bear on the front and the words, "We miss you." Inside, my mom's handwriting, neat, careful. She never had bad penmanship. She wrote that they were planning a dinner. Just a small thing, nothing dramatic, and they'd love to see me. No pressure, no guilt. Just come home if you feel ready. She didn't say sorry. Not once. Not for the stolen money. Not for the party. Not for pretending for years that I didn't matter unless I was helping. She said, "We miss you." But what she meant was, "We miss what you did for us." I folded the card and slid it back into the envelope. Tossed it in a drawer I never opened. I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel tempted. I just sat with it for a moment and thought, she still doesn't get it. The dinner came and went. My sister told me they even left an empty chair, just in case. Like this was some movie. Like I'd come walking in at the last second with a smile and a half-hearted laugh, and everything would go back to normal. But I didn't. I spent that night making pasta, watching a show I actually liked, and booking a weekend trip I'd been putting off for years. There wasn't a second of regret. A few days later, my cousin posted a group photo from the dinner. Everyone smiling, holding up glasses, pretending things were fine. My mom was standing behind the empty chair. Someone tagged me in the comments. "Miss you, Mark." I removed the tag and blocked them. One by one, I finished disconnecting. Not out of spite, out of necessity. I used to think being the bigger person meant returning every call, showing up anyway, letting things slide. Now I understand something different. Sometimes being the bigger person means walking away without needing to explain why. No speeches, no revenge fantasy, just silence that echoes longer than any apology. And here's the part they'll never understand. I didn't leave to hurt them. I left because I realized they were never going to stop hurting me. And I meant it when I said I was done. It had been nearly a year since I cut them off. Life was calm, predictable in the best way. I had routines I liked, people I trusted, and an apartment that finally felt like mine. I wasn't angry anymore, just distant, quiet, steady. Then one night, I got a message on LinkedIn of all places. A woman named Valerie. The last name was familiar, but I couldn't place it. Her message was short. "Hi Mark, I know we don't know each other, but I think we're related. Can we talk?" I didn't respond at first. I assumed it was some distant cousin digging through ancestry websites and looking for drama. But something about the name kept nagging at me. Valerie Heller, my grandfather's name. I checked her profile. She lived 2 towns over. In her bio, genealogist by hobby, social worker by heart. She wasn't selling anything. No pitch, no weird spiritual messages, just a face that looked vaguely familiar, like a shadow of someone I'd seen in old family photos. I replied one line. "What makes you think we're related?" She responded almost instantly. "My mom was your Uncle Frank's daughter. I've been trying to piece things together for a while. Nobody in your side of the family will talk to me." Uncle Frank. Dead for 10 years. My mom never talked about him except to say he was complicated. I barely remembered the guy, just an empty chair at Thanksgiving once and a photo I found in a box when I was 10. He disappeared from family stories before I hit puberty. Valerie said she'd found some documents after her mom passed. Letters, photos, mentions of my mom, of my aunt, of me. "I think your family pretended we didn't exist," she said. "And I think you might want to know why." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to close the tab and block her. I'd worked hard to shut the door. Why open another? But the other part, the one that was always curious, even back when I was still trying to fit in with the family, leaned in. I asked her to send what she had. She replied with 4 photos. One was of her as a kid, sitting on the same couch I remembered from my grandmother's living room. The second was a letter addressed to my aunt from Uncle Frank, dated 1999. The third was a picture of a toddler next to a woman who looked startlingly like my mom. The fourth, it was a receipt. A bank transfer from Frank to my mom. $5,000. Memo. Keep her name off everything. I didn't know what it meant. Not fully. But I knew it wasn't nothing. And just like that, I wasn't out of the family mess anymore. I was back in. But this time, I wasn't the helper. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the invisible wallet they could lean on. This time, I was looking for the truth. I told Valerie to meet me in a coffee shop 2 towns over. Neutral ground, quiet, low risk. I didn't even tell my sister. I didn't want anyone in the family knowing I was stirring up dust. When she walked in, I recognized her immediately. Not from a photo, but from my own face. Her nose, the way she squinted when she scanned the room. Even the way she held her phone, left hand thumb tapping in rhythm. We were related. No DNA test needed. She sat down and opened a folder like she'd been rehearsing this for months. I didn't say much. I just listened. Valerie had grown up with nothing. Her mom raised her alone, bounced from apartment to apartment, no contact with anyone on our side. She always said Valerie's dad was trouble and a mistake, but never talked about him directly. Only after her mother passed did she start finding things. Letters, old photos, a locked drawer with a few envelopes and a single taped-up file that had my mom's name on it. That one had the bank receipt. A letter from Frank saying he wasn't going to fight anymore. That he was tired. That if they didn't want his daughter in the picture, fine. He'd pay. Just keep her safe. Just leave her out of the drama. And in a second letter, even colder. I did my part. Now you do yours. She doesn't need to know about me. Let the girl grow up clean. It was signed by my aunt. Valerie looked at me and said, I think your family paid mine to disappear. And I believed her. It was weird. I'd always known my family had a selective memory, that they erased what was inconvenient. I just never imagined it went this deep. I thought I was the only one who felt cast aside, used, ignored when I didn't serve a purpose. But Valerie's entire existence had been redacted. And now she wanted in, not into the family, not into the mess. She didn't want apologies or money. She just wanted to know why. Why had they hidden her? Why did they pretend she never existed? And why were people willing to pay to make that happen? I didn't know yet, but I knew where to start. My grandmother's house had been in the family forever. After she died, it became my aunt's second home, her storage space. She always said no one had really touched it in years. And I had a key from back when they still trusted me. I told Valerie to wait a week. If there were answers, that's where they'd be. And I didn't want anyone knowing we were looking, because if my family paid once to bury the truth, they might have done it more than once.